I've seen your messages, and apparently Kody and Robyn have put the McMansion up for $1.6 million. Now, for those who may not know the difference or the push, when Robyn and Kody first purchased the home, they bought it for like 840,000, and so they've quite frankly doubled their money, which isn't a bad return. It's a very good ROI for this type of investment, especially in this short of time, which just goes to show that if they held on to the property a little longer and maintained the property, they may be in store for like, they might be sitting on, forget $2 million house. They could be sitting on like a $4 million house, $4 million property after 10 years or so. But you know how they do. It's not, it's nothing like leaving money on the table. So the big question that's being asked is, why are they selling the house? Now, in fairness, because there's also a divorce rumor that's going around that Kody and Robyn are getting a divorce, they put the house up for sale to kind of preempt that. And in order for me to believe that is the case, I would have to believe that all of a sudden Robyn and or Kody are just these benevolent people who just want to make sure that the other person, their partner, is being taken care of financially. So they're going to sell the house and then divide it equally and have those funds available. With the two of them, I can see them trying to ride the pine until till it goes into the water. At the end of the day, I don't see them putting it in a situation where they're going to sell the house and create liquid assets that can be easily divided to whoever wins the divorce. And by win, I mean whoever gets the most money. And so, with that being said, I don't see it being a cause of the divorce. Now, a very real possibility could be that they can't afford it. Because if we keep in mind, since Christine, Meri, and Janelle have left the family, assuming they've taken their money with them, which I have no reason to believe that they didn't, Kody and Robyn have lost 60% of their available income. And so with that type of loss, and in, keeping in mind that when you buy a house, it's not just purchasing the home or buying the home, that a lot of the money comes in. Like, that's the first big hit. But the bleeding happens when you have to pay the taxes, the maintenance, the upkeep. That's where you really start putting out money for houses. And that's part of the investment of homeownership. So it's very possible that between the property taxes and them trying to maintain the property, and looking down the long line of having like loans and then equity loans and the money that they have coming in, that they just realize that they can't afford it long term. And it's better to get out of it while you're still able to walk away with some equity, as opposed to waiting for the bank to come and take the house, in which case you get nothing. So I can see that. But either way, and I'm sure there are other guesses or, possible, feelings that people have. But for me right now, I don't think that there's enough information for us to be able to honestly say it's one thing or another. So we'll have to wait on that. But I will say that I think that there are bigger examples or bigger lessons that we can learn by watching what happened with the house. And specifically what I'm talking about is, I would be willing to bet that Kody sold the purchase of Robyn's house to the sister wives and to the family as a family investment, because they took money from Janelle, they took money from Meri, they took money from the family fund, and they cleaned it out so that they could purchase this home, had a down payment for the purchase of this home. And I'm sure it was presented to them as this great investment. We're going to buy this house. It's going to be $800,000. Now, that's a lot of money. But after a couple of years, this house could be worth double that, which isn't wrong because it is. So that part of it was true. But watching the show, logically, this would all make sense, because otherwise she couldn't move to Coyote Pass. So in other words, if they put all this money, Robyn and Kody put all this money into buying Robyn's home, there's no way that she could afford to move to Coyote Pass and build on Coyote Pass as well. So it would have to be presented to the family as some type of investment that they were going to use to benefit the family, which is why the family would go along with it. The second part of that is this would be the equivalent of two or more friends who decide that they're going to go into it for a car. So they're going to decide, hey guys, let's all pool our money and we can get this car and it'll be great. We can go out and we can use it when we need it. And if you need to go to work, you can take it and and it's so wonderful. At the end of the day, what the guy is going to say is kind of what I'm sure Kody told the wives. This is our car, y'all. But only one person puts their name down as part of the registrar on the pink slip. So only one person actually owns the car. And so it's not y'all's car, it's their car. It's their car. If the car gets totaled, say in a car accident or whatever, the insurance company is going to write the person who owns the car a check. He's not going to say, well, who kicked in the money to help you get this vehicle? I can write out 5 separate checks. He's just going to write one check to the person whose name appears on the car. And that person is going to cash it in. And through their benevolence, maybe they'll share the money with their friends who invested in the car. Or maybe they'll come up with a whole bunch of excuses as to why they can't share the money with their friends who invested in the car. It gets a little sticky. Now, for me, the smart purchase and a way to protect everybody's interest who invested in this home would be to use and utilize the business that was already available that they were getting paid through by TLC, which would have been the Kody Brown Entertainment LLC that was established, in which all the adults were members of. So, as an example, and if there's an accountant, an attorney who would like to chime in, please do so down below, because I really look forward to hearing your perspective. But if they were to purchase under the Kody Brown LLC and they use funds from the Kody Brown LLC, which is where the TLC checks were being deposited, then that property could have been purchased and owned by the entity Kody Brown LLC, and Robyn and Kody could have paid a nominal fee or some nominal amount to Kody Brown LLC to rent the property from the corporation. Now, when it came time for them to make a purchase or for them to do something, they could have used that asset to maybe invest on Kody Pass. I call it Kody Pass because it's really his property in his mind. In his mind, it's his property, so I call it Kody Pass. So they could have invested that money from Kody Brown Entertainment LLC and then turned it into a marketing, like basically a real estate group. So all the real estate flows through that entity. Now, the big problem with doing it that way is that if they purchased Robyn's home using that method, then they also would have purchased Christine's home using that same method, where Christine's home would have been under Kody Brown Entertainment LLC, which would have financially trapped her into the family. It would have bound her. She wouldn't have had the freedom to be able to sell her house, get the money, and then move on with the rest of her life. So that is the one downside to the whole thing. I also want to make note or reference that the Brown family as a culture did not have the idea of an estate or leaving an estate for the wives, having property in their own name and having their own separate things until after Robyn entered into the family. That's when Robyn actually brought in the whole notion or idea that they have to have their own separate estates. And this is part of the reason why she had her own house and Christine had her own house and Meri had her own house, because when they tried to do it, and Janelle, of course, had her own house when they were in Vegas, and then she was trying to get her house in Arizona. But they were trying to do it that way because Robyn, I think, even from the long term, understood that she wanted to keep her house and her property separate from the rest of the family. Now, if we go again to the dark side, welcome to the dark side. Not referencing this term in the criminal sense, but referencing it just as a colloquial expression. In many ways, I could see her taking the money or funds from the family. And when she takes those money or funds from the family, she has to do something with them in order to maintain that those funds are now hers. She has to do something to transfer those funds over to herself. She just walking into Kody Brown LLC and starting to write checks, Robyn Brown, and then deposit into your bank account. That's too easy. So the easier, smarter way to do it would be actually more akin to what folks would commonly refer to as money laundering. In money laundering, you technically have three stages to money laundering. The first, you have the placement. Okay, you make a large purchase, say Kody and Robyn's house. We're under Kody and Robyn's name. You get that through Kody Brown LLC. You withdraw that sum of money so that you can make that purchase or that down payment. Then, once you make that down payment, you just continue to make payments. It's under your name, so it's your property, it's your stuff. And then you try to instill that cultural thought in the rest of the family so that they see that as your property, your stuff, and they don't really ask you questions about it. They don't approach you about it. The second thing that they typically do in any of these money laundering cases, again, I'm not saying that they're committing crimes or this is necessarily what they're doing. I'm just putting out the idea of like the parallels of what it sounds like to me. A lot of times what they do is they go out and they start purchasing things like, I don't know, art, collectibles. They start to purchase things like that that could be like gold walls or just smaller purchases. And this would be considered something under what's referred to commonly in that vernacular is smurfing. What smurfing is these financial transactions are under the reporting threshold. So when you make these small purchases, you don't have to run back to the IRS because say if you bought a big old car or something like that, you have to report that. If the car is over $10,000, you have to report that to the IRS. You go to a car dealership, they're going to send it to the IRS. You purchase a home, they're going to send that to the IRS. If you buy a car for $9,000, they don't report it. So it will be something that you could have. If you bought a painting or, I don't know, some Christmas decorations that are thousands of dollars, but it's not $10,000, $15,000, you don't have to report it. So you make a lot of these small transactions, and then if necessary, you can sell those small items, and then you recoup the funds, and then you do something which will go to stage 3. But typically, once that's done, you move into what's called layering. And this is what I was talking about earlier. The ultimate goal of layering is to generate so many different financial transactions that the original source of money that you're laundering, you can't tell where it came from. So it's so far removed from the original acquisition of those funds. So he gets it from Kody Brown LLC. He runs it through the house. He starts to make purchases for decorations in the house. It's a lot of small purchases. You're not really keeping track of what it is. And you just run so many purchases. Maybe you buy some art, you sell that art, you buy some more art, you sell that art, you buy some more art, you sell that art. And by the time you get done, you don't know whose money is whose money because you mixed it together with so many other purchases or transactions. And then at that point, you move into what's called integration. And integration is essentially where usually at this stage, it's so hard to track where the money came from. And you just basically want to start moving it back into your own accounts so that you can start using it. Ill-gotten gains are often cleaned through I don't know, things like artwork, jewelry, cars, and real estate. Now, a lot of the fans have started commenting about how much artwork is on the wall in Robyn's house. Oops. They talk all the time about the jewelry, the Rolex watches that Kody is wearing, and a lot of the rings and the necklaces that he's wearing. Jewelry. Oops. Then we started talking about the cars. I remember I was on a live with Jenny from Senior Perspective, and she started talking about how the driveway in front of the house was looking like a parking lot because there were so many cars out there. Oops. And then you start talking about, of course, real estate. That's how we get to the McMansion. And then once they sell the McMansion, they purchase another home. Oops. So now all of a sudden you take the original purchase where maybe the sister wives had contributed to purchasing this home. You sell that house, then the money is dispersed. Then you go buy another house, and then 3 or 4 purchases down the line, it's hard to tell how much of Kody and Robyn's money went into what, and how much of Janelle, Meri, and Christine's money went into something else. And by the time you get done, it's so jumbled that it's hard to detect. Now, this gets to the last part of what I want to say. When we talk about this, oftentimes, even me, I talk about like going and get a lawyer, going to get an accountant. The truth of the matter is that to pursue this money, there are a lot of hindrances to coming after Kody and Robyn. Now, what are the hindrances? We talk about attorneys and accountants. They cost money, okay? And attorneys especially, this isn't, you're not getting the kind of attorney or the brand of attorney where you get into a car accident and you don't have to pay us until you get paid. And if you don't get paid, you don't have to pay us anything. With this type of lawsuit or this type of action, you would have to pay an attorney up front the full amount for them to do any work. And they get paid win, lose, or draw. That's their money that they're getting. They have a set amount, they get paid that amount, or more to the point, they'll probably bill you by the hour. But whatever they charge you, whatever their bill is, that's what they're getting paid. There's no real offset. The second part is the desire. Okay? I understand, like, if initially you might be mad, but how far is revenge and retribution going to take you when it could take years for you to see a courthouse? Years of you paying an attorney every week, going to depositions, discoveries, motion practice, so on and so forth, back and forth. It could take years for you maybe to get nothing at the end of it. So just the simple fact that you're mad and you want revenge might not be enough to carry you through. The next thing, of course, when we start talking about years and all that, there's also another offshoot to that. And that's the fact that Kody and Robyn are, at least as they're presented on the show, are horrible with money. So you very well may come after them, hire an attorney, hire an accountant. You have the desire, you have the determination to go after them. You go after them. It takes you a couple years to get them. And then when you finally get that judgment, there's nothing left. They've blown through all the money. Because through bad investments, through piss poor spending, she has a shopping addiction, etc., allegedly, and they've blown through all the money. In which case, you winning doesn't do anything for you. So there's also that. That's kind of the things that Christine, Meri, and Janelle were balancing out when they were deciding whether to hire an attorney, whether to hire an accountant, whether to pursue them legally. These are things I'm sure they have to consider. Now, what are some of the defenses that Kody and Robyn could use? And this is the part where I'm pretty sure there's some people going to be pissed at me, but it kind of is what it is. Here are some of the defenses they could use. Time. First and foremost, time. Times as far as statute of limitations, when a crime is committed or first perpetrated, the clock starts running. Unless you can show that it was an ongoing or continuing event or crime or criminality, the time started running. And so after a few years, it doesn't matter whether they're guilty as sin or not, because if the time of a statute of limitations passes, then you don't have a case at all. They won't allow you to bring a case. You won't have standing. The second part is time. When you look at this offense occurring, they took the money, they borrowed the money. You weren't seeing a return on the money. You find out that they had put the house under her name and you didn't have access to the money. You didn't see any return for the money. Why did it take you so long to come down to the courthouse to file the paperwork? Time. The next thing that they could talk about is, did they get a chance to purchase homes? Of course, we all say that Robyn purchased her home and it wasn't fair that Robyn had this $1 million home. She had the McMansion. But Kody was trying to tell them to purchase their own homes. Christine purchased her own. Did Kody stand in the way of Meri purchasing a home? Meri rented a house because, frankly, I think Meri was kind of 1 foot in and 1 foot out anyway. So she wasn't quite sure whether she was going to be around. So I think she was smart enough to say, you know what, I'm not going to buy here. I'm just going to rent a really nice house, but I'm going to rent. And I have my house in Padawan. I'm not really worried about it. Janelle, and of course, she got kind of the short end of the stick, at least at this point. When it comes down to it, Janelle was in a very uniquely sad situation because he had offered her to get a house. In fact, they have him on camera arguing with her, insisting that she buy a house. And she said, no, I don't want to buy a house. I'll get a trailer. And he said, you need to get a house. That was like a whole argument in and of itself. Then he said, forget the trailer. You need to sell that trailer and get a house. And she was moving into the apartment. And he said, forget that apartment. I want you to buy Christine's house. Remember that argument? I'll help you with it when I put my name on it. Because I want it to be equitable. But he had insisted that she purchase a home. So she's always had that as a possibility. It just wasn't what she wanted because she wanted to build on Kody Pass, but that would require a whole bunch of steps. And he could say that that would have been way more than what we spent on Robyn, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And that could be battled in court, which kind of gets to my next point. They refer to the McMansion as Robyn and Kody's home from the beginning. And this was a mental thing. This is what I had talked about, briefly touched on earlier. They argued that this was their house from the beginning, specifically made it clear that this was Robyn and by default, Kody's separate property. Remember, they were talking about estate, so everybody understood that this was separate property, that this was going to be hers to pass on to her kids. So it was her independent property from the family. When buying a home, you're not allowed to take loans from other people who are not listed on that property. So I can't purchase a home and then take a loan from my parents to get the down payment. If they give me money, there will be affidavits that have to be signed, and there have to be documents that have to be signed in order to attest that this money that I received from these people is in fact a gift. It's not a loan. It doesn't require any repayment. There is no ownership for the other person, which means that the bank or lending organization that gives you the money, entity that gives you the money, they want to be in the first lien position. So if anything happens to that house, if anything happens as far as the payments or lack thereof, or the house burns down, they want to make sure they get their money first. They don't want to be behind anybody else. So they insist that the loans are in fact the only from them, and any money that you received would be considered a gift. Now, why do I say that? Because I'd be willing to argue dollar to donuts that if Janelle goes in and says that, hey, that's some of my house and you guys owe me some of that money, they're going to argue that it wasn't a loan, it was a gift. And then if Janelle says, yeah, but I have it on tape that we were a family and I was contributing to my family, then if you believe that, then at the same time, if we're a family, I can't lend my wife money. I can't lend my girlfriend or my fiance money. If you lend your fiance money, they consider that, well, you guys were going to get married. He was going to absorb your debts anyway. You were going to make your husband pay the money back. Like, they won't even consider it a loan unless you have some kind of extenuating document saying that this is in fact a loan, which I doubt if Janelle and them have a document saying that. So, I mean, there's a lot of things which could create problems with this whole purchase. So I'm interested in seeing later on down the line how this pans out. If you guys have any thoughts or you disagree with what I say, leave your comments down below. Let me know what you think. That's my take. I'm James. This has been My Take on Reality, and I'm out. 'Cause I've been living life right like I could just die.